Hi, I'm Julia, and most of you probably know me as Julia Alexa because I'm an artist and I make music, and that's what I usually post on here about. But today I wanted to come on here as just Julia and talk to you about some recent things that I have been thinking about and some random reflections that I have been doing, because I've always had so much to say and I've always felt like I had nobody to talk to. And even though this really extreme feeling of loneliness and emptiness I think has consumed me all of my life, I've recently realized that we're almost 150,000 people on here who follow me. So after everything, I do have a big community of people to talk to. So I felt like this would be a nice little thing to do, and we can all be friends and we can all share our thoughts in the comments. And if you like this format, maybe I'll do some more of these little late night talking sessions. And the thing that actually sparked this was a poem that I rediscovered today that I found 2 years ago by Anne Sexton, and it's called The Truth the Dead Know. And while it's a 4-paragraph poem about grief, there's this one line, I'm not sure if I wrote it down correctly, but it's something like, "It's June and I'm tired of being brave." And I remember how much this line resonated with me back then, and it still does, because I have felt like I've been so brave all my life, and I've always fought so hard for everything. Not only just the things that I wanted, but also just for myself, just so that I can be here, just so that I am not miserable, while it seemed like everybody else around me was having a way easier time than me. And I know that I'm taking this line out of context of this full poem, and this is probably the wrong way of doing this interpretation, but this is just the first time that I found and how I wanted to talk about it with you. And it's June 2nd, 2025. I am in Los Angeles. I am in Hollywood. I'm 24 years old. I'm doing music full time. I am doing everything I could have ever dreamt of. But nothing feels real. I don't feel real. I still feel empty the way that I always used to feel. I still feel lonely the way that I always used to feel, even though I constantly have people around me. And I have friends, I have people. It's not that I actually am alone, it's just this constant feeling that has never left me. And I know that I should be happy and so proud of myself, but I just genuinely do not know how to feel this emotion. And I still feel like I have to be so brave. Like I always have had to. I remember being a little kid and I felt like I had to be brave. I remember being in high school thinking I had to be brave, because how else was I ever going to make it out of high school alive? I remember being in university feeling the exact same way, because how else was I ever going to make it out alive? And everything has always been so intense and emotional for me. And I think this is a very common thing in people who deal with BPD, and this is not something that I talk about a lot because I got diagnosed 2 years ago and barely anybody in my life even knows about this, because it's not something that I really mention or talk about. But for some reason it felt like talking about it online in front of everybody would make sense. So today this video is basically going to be about my BPD, my experience with relationships with BPD, and how emotions feel like for me. And this is, I think, what I wanted to talk about first, because I've been called dramatic all my life. People have always told me that I am overreacting, when to me it felt like I was still suppressing my emotions, like I could have reacted way more, I could have been way more dramatic. I tried my best not to be, and people would still call me dramatic. So it always felt like no matter what I was going through, no matter what I was feeling, everything was always on a scale that was impossible for anybody else to even reach. And I felt like nobody could ever really relate to what I was going through. And this constant feeling of knowing that I'm so misunderstood, that has always haunted me, because I know now that I have my BPD diagnosis, that it is actually true that people really do not understand how it's like. And people really do not understand how intense my emotions are because they're simply not able to feel it. And my highs are so high, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I feel so alive. I feel so good when I am not in a depressive episode. And then my lows are so low that I feel like I might as well disappear because nobody here cares anyways. And as much as this emotional roller coaster and these intense emotions have ruined my life, I'm also convinced that it's made me who I am today, because the music I make relies on the fact that I feel things as intensely as I do. And I wouldn't be able to write songs the way that I do if I didn't feel my emotions on the scale that I do. So this truly is my biggest curse and my biggest blessing at the same time. And while I do have a lot of empathy for other people, at the same time I'm also feeling like I'm never actually able to connect to people or to really relate to them because of the way that I feel things so differently. And my inability to regulate my emotions is making me very vulnerable for people to take advantage of it. And I'm very aware of that, but it still keeps happening over and over again. And then also the fact that I feel so misunderstood, but then by a few people so deeply understood when they play into whatever I need to feel understood, whether that's love bombing or just feeding into my delusions. I get very, very attached. And I think this is my next chapter on my little notes that I have, what I wanted to talk about, which is being in relationships with BPD. Because I have this inability to essentially regulate my own emotions, I often end up dating people who regulate my emotions for me. And this type of person is often somebody who has narcissistic tendencies, because they act like they can regulate your emotions. They can't really. They can tell you how much they care. They're very convincing. They're very good at feeding into your delusions because they want to be the center of your attention. And being loved by somebody with BPD in some ways is the greatest thing you can ever feel, because people with BPD love so intensely and they're so attached and they're so convinced that they want to be with you for the rest of their lives, and also have this intense fear of abandonment that they probably also will stay with you for the rest of their life. That as a partner of somebody with BPD, this is probably the best thing that you can experience, not considering all of the downsides. But for somebody who is narcissistic, all that they dream of is finding somebody who make them their center of attention. They want somebody who has jealousy issues and who only wants them. They want somebody who is obsessed with you because they love that. And then as somebody with BPD, you often fall victim to those people, because narcissists are very good at giving you the love bombing that you are looking for. They're very good at making your highs very high and your lows really low, which is very addicting, and also why all of these relationships are also always very toxic. And as somebody with BPD, I know that I'm very easy to manipulate, that if somebody gives me exactly what I'm looking for, I will give them also exactly what they're looking for, which usually is not good things, because I'm so scared of them leaving me that I would do anything for them to stay. And a lot of this is also often based on the fact that people with BPD don't have a strong sense of self-identity. And even though I feel like I have found myself in a lot of ways that over the past few years, I still am so lost in life, and I not only look like a new person every month, but I also feel like a new person every month. And this is because deep down I do not have a sense of self-identity at all. And it's very easy for people, again, to take advantage of that, because I adjust to people and I am trying so hard to be perfect for them and to be exactly what they want me to be, that I will change for them in every way that they want me to. And I think this is a very common pattern that people with BPD fall into in a cycle that is very hard to get out of. And back to the thing with the full trying to date narcissistic people and finding your partner. I'm not sure if any of you have BPD or know about it, but there's this term called favorite person, and I wrote down the definition that I found on Google, and it says that an individual, your favorite person is an individual who the person with BPD intensely idolizes and becomes emotionally dependent upon, often seeking validation and reassurance from them. The relationship is characterized by intense emotions fluctuating between extreme admiration and fear of abandonment. The favorite person serves as a primary source of validation, emotional support, and stability for the person with PPD. And every time that I've fallen in love, it's been exactly like that. Because I'm not able to fall in love in a healthy way. I get obsessed. The person I'm in love with, I am in love with so hard because I fall in love so hard. Which should be a good thing, because I know that someday somebody will really appreciate all of the love that I can give. But mostly because I fall in love with the wrong people, I am fully emotionally dependent on somebody who I shouldn't be dependent on. And because I'm so scared of them leaving me, I'm doing everything in my power to make them stay. Which again, I don't know if you've noticed this pattern yourself, but the more clingy you get to somebody and the more attached you are to somebody, the more likely they are to leave you. Because most people don't like it when they have somebody who's so overly obsessed and attached to them. So this is what's making them slowly push you away. And as a person with BPD, your biggest fears are everybody hates me, everybody wants to abandon me, I am unlovable. And by falling in love with somebody and getting so attached to them, getting so clingy, having crazy jealousy issues, which is always toxic too, and just being so emotionally dependent on somebody is often too much for somebody else to deal with, so they will end up leaving you exactly because of that. And then the self-fulfilling prophecy repeats, because you told yourself that they will abandon you, and guess what? They will abandon you eventually. And then you can end up saying, oh, everybody does abandon me. And this cycle of repeating is only making the situation worse. And then this is also a big topic, which is how do you make your favorite person stick around when they are thinking of leaving, or if you think that they are thinking of leaving. And starting with manipulating them, trying to emotionally feel them a certain way to make them stick around, because you're not able to regulate your own emotions. You're now trying to regulate somebody else's emotions. Impossible. All of this eventually will lead to the thing, what if I hurt myself? Are they going to finally care about me? What's going to make them finally care about me? There has to be something, and because that person often does care about you in some ways, if something bad happens to you, they're going to come back. Which is also this fantasy that I know a lot of people are having, which is, if I'm in the hospital, are they going to visit me? Going all the way to, if I die, would they even care? And this is the worst thought that you could ever have, because one thing that I've promised myself is the second I start with suicidal threats, I'm leaving that person. Because that's so toxic of me. The second I start being like, if you leave, I'm going to kill myself, which is something that I do think about, that person, nobody deserves to feel that way. Nobody deserves to be scared of somebody wanting to kill themselves only because you might leave them, and everybody has the right to leave. Nobody is forced to stick around with me forever. And this is something that's it's a cycle that I'm trying to break, and it's so difficult because I keep repeating it and I keep reminding myself that I am aware of it. I know exactly what's going on. It's just so hard to not fall back into those same patterns over and over again. And then also the love that you have for people, as somebody who loves as intensely as me, is essentially unconditional love, which is they could do anything to me and I would still stay, which is not normal. No normal adult person is able to unconditionally love somebody. The only people able to do that are people with BPD or children who love their parents. But me feeling that way about a romantic partner and saying I would do anything for them to stick around, no matter what they do to me, no matter how they treat me, only because I feel like I would die without them, it's always going to end in a toxic relationship because I put myself in this situation. Okay, back to my notes, because I know that I've talked about this a lot now, but it's essentially this constant self-sabotaging, self-prophecy cycle of just wanting to prove yourself right, of knowing, oh, I'm so unlovable, so I will love somebody who either doesn't love me in the first place, or I will love somebody who will end up not loving me anymore at some point because I will push them away with my toxic behavior in some ways, even if it's not always toxic. It's always wrong. And I think the one thing that has helped me most with this is to build this strong self-identity and to figure out exactly who I am, to have my own plans, to have my own goals, to have my own schedule, to just plan my life, and then when I fall in love and have somebody who I want to hang out with constantly because I'm so attached, I'm not going to let that happen. If they ask me to hang out tonight and I have something planned tonight, I'm going to tell them, oh, I can't tonight because I have something else planned already. And that way I'm going to prevent myself from getting so overly clingy and attached, because I still have my own life and I still have my own goals and my own things that I want to do every single day. And somebody who really wants to be with you, they're going to respect that, and they're going to be like, oh, well, if you can't hang out tonight, then let me know when you can hang out, and then you can suggest it, and then you can plan your life. But you cannot plan your life around another person. You can only plan your own life for yourself. And I think sometimes this is making me feel like I'm not giving the other person all of me, and I'm not putting all of myself into the relationship, because I'm not immediately making myself super available and giving them all of my time, which I think nobody normal really does. But to me, this is always what I used to do. I would always sacrifice my full life just to be with somebody else. But essentially, this is all just going back to me just building a strong sense of self-identity, and building my own life around that. And yeah, I'm trying to find some more coping mechanisms that I wrote down, but I think this is really the most important one. Then one of the most obvious ones is identifying your triggers in the first place, because being aware of them the way that I am now very aware of them is also going to help yourself figure out how you're going to react in certain situations before they're going to happen. In a healthy relationship, you're maybe wanting to discuss that with your partner before it ends up happening, so that they know what they're prepared for, and they know how to not play into your BPD and how to not be part of that cycle. Because I don't want to drag anybody else down with me either, you know? This is not what I'm trying to do ever. It just, for some reason, keeps happening. And all of these things and all of these very intense emotions at the end of the day also have an advantage, because it is making me the artist that I am. And I think a lot of artists suffer from BPD, which is for some reason a very common thing in this field. And it makes sense, because if I didn't have BPD, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I wouldn't be feeling like I have to write songs about it. And I don't know if any of this is relatable to any of you, or if this is a very random video and long rant, but I feel like I have been lucky enough to experience very strong connections with people in my life, and to receive treatment, and to have all of the resources to read about all of this and to figure out myself more. So I thought, why not share it with some of you? And if you do relate to this, I hope you know that you're not alone with this and that my DMs are always open, and if anybody wants to talk, I'll be there for them. And maybe if you enjoyed this type of video, let me know, leave your thoughts below. I would love to also just talk to you in the comment section and see how all of you are feeling about this and how you deal with these intense emotions and challenges in your life. So take care, I love you a lot, and this was it.